Mhm.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on your business elevator speech. I'm Tim Ryan, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'll be your host. Our speaker today is Cliff Ennico. More on Cliff in just a minute. First, some brief info on SCORE. There's about 300 offices and 11,000 volunteers nationwide. We're part of the SBA. SCORE Fairfield County has over 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer 3 primary value-added services to small business owners. First, free one-on-one counseling, which can be accessed via the Request Mentor link on our website or via the link on the screen. Second, we give educational workshops and webinars, about 100 per year. And third, we do extensive resources on our website, where we have extensive resources on our website, such as Word and Excel templates to help you build your business plan. Some useful info about today's event. If you have a question, please use the chat window at any time during the presentation. It is located in the lower part of your screen. Our webinar will end at 1 o'clock to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org within the next couple of days. Now our speaker. Cliff Ennico is a nationally recognized authority on small business, legal, and tax issues, and is best known as the former host of Money Hunt, the PBS television series for entrepreneurs. He is the author of 16 books, including the Crowdfunding Handbook, Raise Money for Your Small Business or Startup with Equity Funding Portals. And he judges business plan and elevator pitch competitions nationwide. An attorney and small business consultant based in Fairfield County, or Fairfield, Connecticut, he has launched thousands of businesses in his 40-year career. Now I'll turn it over to Cliff. Cliff, it's all yours.
Hey, thanks, Tim, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. Those of you who were listening very closely to what Tim said, you're going to be spending the next hour of your life with an attorney, basically teaching you how to sell. Okay, so it's a little bit of a different approach to life, but the one thing that I want to sort of underscore in my little interruption, introduction, not interruption. I'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, if any of you question that I'm an attorney, please look at the current slide. We always have this at the beginning of all my presentations. Obviously, while I do a lot of work with SCORE, I am not myself a SCORE counselor. I'm not part of the SCORE organization. So anything that I say in this program is entirely me. More importantly, while we may get into some legal and tax stuff in this program, not likely, but we might. Anything that I say in this program should not be relied upon as legal advice. There's a very big difference between saying, well, here's what the law is generally all about, and here's what you, Joe, should do, and Tim, this is why you should do something different. That's legal advice, which I really can't do in a program like this. So if you do hear something in this program that sounds like a great idea, you do it and it doesn't work, and your business fails, you go bankrupt, your spouse divorces you, your kids don't want to talk to you anymore, your dog pees in your leg, and you're living in a diaper box under the Brooklyn Bridge, you can't really sue anybody. Okay, so let's talk about an elevator pitch. Tim mentioned this in his introduction, but back in the 1990s, I had the privilege of hosting a TV show, it ended up being the first ever Shark Tank type TV show for entrepreneurs. It was called Money Hunt, and it ran on public television, PBS, throughout the country from 1993 till about 2002. We kind of got caught up in the whole dot-com bubble of the early 2000s, and our corporate sponsors dropped off, and we ended up going off the air. But for almost 10 years, I was involved with a TV show which was all about business plans and reviewing business plans. What Money Hunt was basically a business plan competition. And as part of a business plan, you need to have a good elevator pitch. Now, let's talk about elevator pitches as opposed to full-blown business plans. Okay. Why do we call it an elevator pitch? Okay, here's the basic concept. You meet someone on an elevator who basically can jumpstart your business with whatever he has in his pocket change. So let's say you're in an office building, you get on the elevator, and who should jump on the elevator next to you as the doors close but Bill Gates, one of the world's richest human beings. This guy has billions of dollars in his wallet that he could just use to fund anything he wants. You've got Bill Gates alone in an elevator for, what does it take an elevator to drop 4 or 5 stories, maybe 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to impress Mr. Gates and get him interested in you. What do you say? This is why we call it an elevator pitch. What you see on Shark Tank and other types of TV shows is more of what we call a business plan competition. Now, that's something that's a little bit different. There are in my world, there are elevator pitch competitions and there are business plan competitions. In an elevator pitch competition, you've got 30 seconds, to get your idea across and to say something about your business that will make the judges like you. In a business plan competition, it's a little bit more relaxed. You usually have between 5 and 15 minutes to pitch your business to a panel of judges, and they ask questions and whatever. What I'm going to try to do in this presentation is I'm going to try to give you enough information that you can survive both of these types of competition if that's what you're planning to do. The focus of this program is going to be on elevator pitches and elevator pitch competitions, but I am going to include some information in this program for those of you who are involved in longer form competitions where you actually have to present the whole business plan. And maybe what we'll do is another month or two, we'll try to do another program which is strictly focused on doing a business plan competition. You can binge watch every episode of Shark Tank and you still won't be ready to do an elevator pitch or a business plan competition. Pitching in the real world is very, very different than what goes on Shark Tank. And I won't be specific about that. Shark Tank is TV land. A lot of the things that they pitch on Shark Tank, to be honest with you, no real world investor will even go close to. I mean, I think I can say that without being too cynical about this. I mean, a lot of Shark Tank is about people achieving their dreams. It isn't necessarily about these are good ideas that should be financed. So let's give you an example. I mean, the best way to start with elevator pitches is for me to give you an example. Now, here are I'm going to give you 2 elevator pitches for a company that I actually ran. Back in the 1990s, I ran a small company called Bienix Corporation. I had 2 partners initially, although I bought them out, and I eventually sold the company in the early 2000s. Here is one business elevator pitch for Bienix Corporation. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico, president of Bienix Corporation, Fairfield, Connecticut. We are a legal publisher who specializes in the legal career information vertical. Okay, now, did you get that? You probably didn't. Okay, so let me repeat it again. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico, president of Bienix Corporation in Fairfield, Connecticut. We're a legal publisher who specializes in the legal career information vertical. Now, everything I just said was totally accurate about what Bienix Corporation did, but did you get a real sense of what we do and what that company did? I'll bet you didn't. Okay, so here's another elevator pitch for the same company, for Bienix Corporation, which I think will help you get a better sense of what it is that we do. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico, president of Bienix Corporation in Fairfield, Connecticut. We are the leading publisher of books, audio cassette programs, seminars, and webinars for lawyers, judges, and other legal professionals to help them manage their practices better and make more money and manage their careers. We're not trying to help them become better lawyers. We're trying to help them make more money and become more successful at their practices. One of our books, The Legal Job Interview, a book on how to interview for a legal job, was the book most frequently stolen from law schools around the country, according to a recent law librarian survey. Now, I didn't time that, but I think I came in under 30 seconds with that. Was that second one a lot better? I'll bet you it was. It gave you a little bit more of a sense of what we were and what we did, which is what you're trying to do in an elevator pitch. So let's parse this out now. Why was that second pitch much better than the first one that I did? Why was that second one more easy on your ears and easier to remember? Okay, let's start parking it out. Every elevator pitch has to have 6 things. And the first pitch that I didn't really have any of them. Let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico, president of Bienix Corporation. We are a legal publisher. Okay, how many of you people out there think that legal publishing law books, is a dynamic, exciting, thrilling business of the future? None of you probably think of that. When you think of someone who publishes law books, you're thinking about somebody who's got 3 inches of dust on him and lives in a basement somewhere, being fed through a hole under the door or something like that. I mean, who publishes law books? I mean, that's, this is 2022. I mean, everything's the web, it's internet and all that. So right off the bat, I've turned you off a little bit. I've convinced you that I'm engaged in a business that flourished around 1750 or something like that. But then I went on to say that specializes in the legal career information vertical. Well, what the heck is that? That's jargon. That's MBA type jargon. And it is accurate to describe what we did, but it didn't register with you because you don't speak that jargon. You have no understanding of what I'm talking about. There are 6 things that you need to do in your elevator pitch. First of all, you have to describe what it is you make or sell. People have to visualize that. They have to see and understand what it is that you do. Secondly, you have to have a description of the people you serve, your marketplace. Thirdly, how you add value to their lives or businesses. Fourth, why you are different from or better than the competition. 5, what makes you and your management team credible. And 6, and most importantly, a story or some other information that will make you memorable, that will help make people remember you. Okay, so now let's talk about that second elevator pitch that I just did for Bienix Corporation. And let's parse it out a little bit. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico from Bienix Corporation. We are the leading publisher of books, audio cassette programs, seminars, and webinars for seminars. Okay, right off the bat, we're a publishing business. We do books, we do audio tapes, we do seminars. That didn't come across in the first one, but it does in the second. For lawyers, judges, and other legal professionals, there's our market, the people that we serve. We're not a publisher for anyone. We're not publishing sci-fi or fantasy novels. We're publishing specific products for the legal community. How you add value to their lives or businesses. We publish books that help them manage their careers better. Okay, so that means that we're focused on career management. We're a career publishing company that is focused on career information for lawyers, judges, and other legal people. We're not trying to make them better lawyers. We're trying to make them more successful at their practices and make more money. That's what makes us different from or better than our competition. Most law book publishers are trying to help lawyers practice law and do a better job without committing malpractice. We don't worry about that. We're trying to help them become more successful and become more successful lawyers and judges and whatever. Okay, what makes you and your management team credible? Well, I didn't really do that in the second one, but it really wasn't necessary to do because our mission statement was so different than what was out there at the time that you didn't really have to do that. Nobody really had 80 years of experience in legal career management back in the 90s when I was running Bienix Corporation. So it didn't really matter to say, well, I have a PhD in legal career management. It's nobody things back then. But lastly, I told you that story about the book, the legal job interview book that I wrote, the book on how to interview for a job that was, and by the way, I wasn't making that up. The American Law Libraries Association did a survey back in 1993. And that book, the book that I myself wrote, was the book that was most frequently stolen from law libraries around the country. Now, it doesn't say much for the ethics of my profession, ladies and gentlemen, but isn't that great dust jacket copy? The book most frequently stolen from law libraries. How bad can a book be if people are stealing it from libraries? Okay, really, you kill for publicity like that. You absolutely do. And I guarantee that most of you will probably remember that part of my pitch long after you have forgotten the rest of it. And that's my point with that. So let's walk through each of these 6 things in a little bit more detail. Let's drill down a little bit here. Okay, so now it's time to focus on, now enough about my little elevator pitch on Bienix Corporation. Now it's time to focus on your elevator pitch. Okay, your product description. Okay, don't get lost in a detailed description of how your product works. Those of you who have an engineering background, I do a lot of business plan competitions around the country with engineering students, and this is the biggest problem they have. They're so focused on how the product works and how it fits together and how it works with other stuff. Okay, it's very easy to lose your audience with that. And believe it or not, people don't care. If you have an engineering background, believe it or not, I, as your judge, I assume that you know how to put something together and how to make it work. I don't need to be sold on that so much. I trust that you know what you're doing, that you have have developed a product that works. What I'm more concerned about as a judge, what does the product do? What does this thing do to help people make their lives better in some way? So, for example, our product takes A, combines it with B, and turns it into C. Okay, that I can understand as a judge. I myself do not have an engineering background, so you can talk about technical stuff all you want. It's all going to go over my head. Okay, I want to know, what does this product do? We have a product that takes the frequency thing and that does that and it does that. That I can understand. Once I understand that, then I'm golden. You don't really have to sell me on whether or not the product works. I trust you on that. If the product is highly technical, which a lot of very successful products are, it helps if you can help your audience visualize what the product does. So, for example, and this is an actual example from our Money Hunt show. We had a guest on Money Hunt, a real engineer from India who was, very into the technical aspects of this product, and it was very difficult. He was having a lot of trouble articulating just what the product did. So I kind of interrupted him, and I said, "Well, let me just see if I can make this real simple for our audience here. If ET's spaceship landed in your backyard, you could take this device that you've invented, take a photo of it, a 3D photo of ET spaceship, and not only would you get a photo of the spaceship, but we would also get out a 3D schematic of the ship's exterior and interior. Is that correct?" And the guest said, "Yes, that's exactly it. You nailed it." Now we had something that we could deal with. The audience could visualize what this highly technical and state-of-the-art product was. Make it easy for your audience to understand what it is that you were doing. Remember, you've only got 30 seconds or 5 minutes if this is a business plan competition. You have to be willing to dumb that down for your audience. If the product has to be seen or demonstrated, okay, bring it with you and let the audience see it in action, as long as it doesn't take up too much time. So if you've got a really technical product that has to be seen to be believe, bring it with you and do a short demo, or bring a 15 to 20 second if this is a business plan competition, you can have a little video. Of course, you can't do that in an elevator pitch, but in a business plan competition, you can have maybe a 15 or 20 second video where somebody is doing something with the thing, so you can help your audience visualize exactly what it is and what it does, and also to show how cool it is too. I mean, don't forget, by demonstrating the product, you really show how good it is. Consider bringing samples to the competition. I don't know whether your competition's rules will permit this, but if they do, take advantage of that. Bring samples to the pitch meeting. So if you are doing a bakery, if that's your business, and you have a unique, your grandma's recipe for arugula or something like that, bring them to. Believe me, we're all hungry. The judges are hungry. That is one thing you can count on. Most business plan competitions are in the morning. We haven't had a chance to eat breakfast because we had to rush to wherever the place was. We're starving. We're starving a little bit. We'll appreciate that little pick me up there. But there are limits to that. A number of years ago, I hosted a collegiate business plan competition. One of the participants was an agricultural college, an ag college. In Texas, and they had come up with a new formula for fertilizer. For fertilizer for certain kinds of crops. And what they did was they actually brought bags of the fertilizer to the competition and had them lined up, in front of the podium while the speaker gave his business plan pitch. Well, this was in Texas in the summertime. It was a rather warm day, and the air conditioning in the hotel where we were wasn't working all that well. Let me tell you that after about 5 minutes into this presentation, not only the judges, but everybody in the room wanted to get out of there with bags of fertilizer, sitting there sort of stinking up the place. And to make it worse, at the end, we all tolerated it. We didn't want to say anything because we didn't want to offend. This team had worked very, very hard to put their pitch together. We didn't want to offend them. But at the end of the presentation, these guys took the bags of fertilizer and gave a bag to each one of the judges. Okay, this is an example of what not to do. in a business plan competition. If you have a product that is going to stink up the place, do not bring it to the business plan competition. Trust me, we take it on faith that you're good engineers and you've come up with a really exciting new formula for fertilizer. Okay, we'll take your word for that. Okay, all right, that's the product description. Now let's shift gears. Let's talk about your market. Now this to me is the most important part of the business plan pitch or your elevator pitch. I want to know that real people in the real world are going to buy this product or service. And I listen to a lot of pitches that are just not ready for the real world. I mean, they're interesting ideas, but they will only sell to perfect people. And perfect people are not perfect. You have to take your market the way they are, not the way you would like them to be. So needs to be clear. Your market description needs to be clear and focused. It cannot be everybody. Well, we have a product that everybody can use. Well, first of all, that's not accurate. Okay, there is no such thing as a product that everybody can use. There is no such thing. And if there were, quite frankly, it would be so big that only a huge company, $1 billion company, could take advantage of it. A small startup niche company isn't really equipped to handle a universal market like that, even if such a thing were to exist. So the minute you say your market is everybody, you've turned off the judges. Don't do that. You have to be as detailed as possible when you describe your marketing, your market. So first of all, is your product or service business to business, business to consumer, or increasingly, we're seeing a new category now, consumer to consumer, peer buying and selling. So for example, there's this new service now where people can rent cars from other people rather than from car rental agencies. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but that would be anything that's peer to peer. We call that C2C, consumer to consumer. I want to know which of the three you are. Secondly, I don't believe, do not come up with a business plan that's too big for you. Most successful companies started out as niche companies. They do one thing, a narrow thing, and they do it very well. Don't get me wrong, they are looking to scale it up into something bigger, but that happens down the road. At the startup stage, I don't want to hear that you have a new product that's going to save humanity or solve climate change. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that you've got a product that solves a very specific problem, does it in a very specific way, and does it better than anything else that's out there. That's what I want to hear, because that's what's going to make you successful. Microsoft, one of the world's richest companies, started off with only one product, which was called DOS, an operating system for personal computers. That was its one thing. And it did that product better than anybody else. IBM entered into a contract with them where they installed DOS in every one of the new computers that they sold. And that is how Microsoft took off. Now, today they do a lot of other things, but back in the beginning, they focused on one thing and they did it very well. That's what I want to hear. What's your niche? Define your market as narrowly as possible. By all means, show that it can be ramped up. I mean, one of the things that will turn judges off, if they see that you have a company that's only one product and it's likely to be only one product for the foreseeable future, that's going to be a turnoff. They don't want to see a product. They want to see a business that could expand into products other than the one that you're currently doing. But you have to start somewhere, and you should start with something that is a niche, a very specific problem. What we have is a product that will solve all problems. A lot of plumbers are left-handed and they have trouble with certain types of tools. We've come up with a three-dimensional wrench that can be used either by left-handed or right-handed plumbers, especially left-handed plumbers of Lithuanian origin. That's what's going to turn on the judges here. This market is manageable. It can be handled. Nobody else is focused on this demographic, this particular demographic. Now you've got my attention. I think this is one that's going to sell. Okay. I mean, if you have time, say quickly how big the market is and how they are distributed geographically. There are a lot of products that will sell only in certain parts of the country. So for example, if you're setting up a muffler shop, a shop to handle people's mufflers, you'd better be in the Southeast or the Sun Belt. And people down there, whenever they have a muffler issue, they go to a muffler shop. But here in the Northeast, if people have a muffler problem, they take their car to the dealership. or to their all-purpose mechanic that handles all their other stuff. It's a little bit different culture in the Northeast than it is down south. So that's going to have something. If there is a geographic element to your market, or if it's if there is an ethnic or a sexual dimension, you're doing products primarily for women to help them with their hair care, whatever. That's what people want to know. Who are these people? And try to make them as narrow and focused as possible, because the bigger the market, the harder it is for a small startup company to deal with a huge unfocused market. Okay, how do you add, number 3, how do you add value to your market? Okay, now what is the specific problem or need that the market faces that your product service can solve? Okay, my Bienix Corporation back in the 90s, there were literally dozens of law book publishers that were doing legal treatises and stuff to help lawyers practice law better. Nobody was out there helping lawyers with their career issues. What type, you spend 3 years in law school, you have no idea what kind of a lawyer you should be. Should you be a tax lawyer? Should you be a litigator, someone who fights courtroom battles? Should you be a trust and estates lawyer that does wills? No one teaches you anything like that in law school. They just throw a lot of cases at you for 3 years, so that you understand how the law works. But you don't really have any information at all about what kind of a lawyer you should be, what's your best fit, what's the culture of various types of practice. No one teaches you anything about that. I set up my company in 1990 to solve that problem, just to find expert authors who can write books and do seminars to help lawyers with their issues. Should you do a solo practice or should you join a big firm? How do you make partner if you're at a big firm? Nobody was doing stuff like that. So that was the specific problem that my Bienix Corporation was set up to solve. I don't like the word needs, by the way. And those of you who have seen some of my YouTube videos, and I'll give you some citations at the end of the. I'll give you some references at the end of the program today. You know that I don't really like the word need. I don't, in my experience. And this is one of my little particular prejudices. People do not buy things because they need them. They don't. That's a myth. It only exists in business school textbooks. People do not buy things because they need them. For people to buy things they need, they have to, first of all, they have to know that they need something, and most people don't know what they need. But secondly, even if they did know what they need, they don't always rush out and buy it. And I can give you very concrete examples of that, and I do in some of my YouTube videos. When I'm listening to a business plan pitch, I want to know who are your customers and what are their fears and passions. What do they get excited about? What turns them on? That's passions. What are they worried about? What's keeping them awake at nights? That's fears. In my experience, virtually all successful products and services either enhance somebody's passion for living or help them alleviate their fears. And that's what I want to hear in the business plan competition. There's hundreds of thousands, there's 100,000 new law school graduates in the United States every year. None of them know exactly what to do with their career planning, and they're afraid they're going to make a mistake and get stuck in a hole that's never going to go anywhere, and that they're never going to become, get into the upper middle class, which is why you go to law school, is to have a decent living out of life. They're afraid that they're going to fail at what they do. That's the fear that my products and services in Bienix were intended to address. It was all on a fear side. If you've got a product or service that turns people on or that will help people sleep better at nights, you've got a winner there. And I want to hear precisely who are these people, what are their fears, their anxieties, their passions, and how does your product or service either enhance their passions or alleviate their fears? I really want to hear that, because if I don't buy that, if I don't think that real people are going to buy your stuff, that's going to be a problem for me, and you're not going to get a high ranking from me. Your marketing must be compelling and based on an understanding of real people. People ought to buy a lot of things that they don't in the real world, because people are not perfect, and people don't do what they should do. If people ate what they should eat all the time, there'd be no need for Weight Watchers or gyms or anything like that. Okay. The fact that these are multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar industries means that there are a lot of people out there that don't do what they should do. Or here's my example, by the way. And if you think I'm too cynical, I apologize. But cynicism is a healthy trait in an entrepreneur. Everybody should eat more organic food, right? We all agree. People should eat healthier. They should eat organic. They should eat vegan. We all agree on that. I don't think anybody seriously disputes that. If I ate nothing but Brussels sprouts and broccoli the rest of my life, I probably would live to 120. Why? I don't know, but I would still, but there's no question. I would add years to my lifespan if I went to a vegan diet. Okay. Now on next Saturday, go to your local supermarket. Okay. Saturday is always the busiest day in a supermarket, and walk down the organic food aisle. Chances are, as busy as that supermarket is, you will be the only person in that aisle, maybe one or two other people. My little trick, by the way, is when I have to go to the supermarket on a Saturday and I want to get the milk and the eggs and all the stuff that's in the back of the store, I go down the organic food aisle because that's the quickest way to get to the back of the store. Okay, you got all this wonderful merchandise there and nobody's buying it. Why? Because a box of muesli in the organic food aisle goes for $20. Who is going to pay $20 for a box of cereal? Okay, that's the problem. Okay, forgive me, and if I'm too cynical, and I know some of you, if you're a real health nut, by all means, you're probably the exception that proves the rule. But you got to be careful about your product. The minute I hear that people ought to buy your product or they should buy your product or service, then I know you don't really know your market. I want to hear that you know real people, and I'm going to ask you, what kind of marketing research have you done with your customers? Don't just tell me you talk to your friends and family, because they'll tell you anything you want to hear. I want to know, have you done control studies? Have you actually observed consumer behavior to see what they actually do? That's what I want to hear. I want to know that you're selling to real people, that you're not just selling to people that live in your head. Because a lot of startup businesses make that mistake. They got a great idea to improve the world and they're going to save humanity, but guess what? Human beings are imperfect. That's what makes us human. Okay, selling to real people is going to make you a lot more successful. Why you are different from or better than your competition. Let's talk about competition now. This is the fourth thing that needs to be in your elevator pitch or your business pitch. Okay, this, in my experience, is the weakest part of most elevator pitches that I've heard. The competition section is always the weakest part of their pitch. Most entrepreneurs are fearful about talking about their competitors. And they are afraid to talk. They haven't done enough homework to find out the competition exists. Literally 1 out of every 5 business pitches that I hear begins with "we have no competition," and that is wrong. The minute you say that, you make that statement, you have wiped yourself off the judge's radar screen. No, we all know, and we've been in business for many years, in whatever it is we do. Every business has competition. Every does. It's just that some competitors are a little tougher to find than others. They're not as obvious as others are. You have to be prepared to talk about your competition, who they are, sometimes what they are. We'll talk about that in a second, because in my experience, most entrepreneurs are guilty of underestimating their competition. They either haven't looked hard enough to find out where their competitors are, or they think they're going to be too easy to beat. Trust me, if you're going one-on-one against Microsoft or Facebook, now called Meta, believe me, these people have tons of money, and if you're doing something they like, believe me, they can get into your face very quickly, and with their resources, they can wipe you out. Okay, you have to be very, very honest and upfront about who your competitors are and how you're going to beat them. What makes you better? Why is somebody going to buy your product as opposed to Microsoft's? That's what I want to hear. Mention your biggest competitors by name. Don't be afraid to say, we have competitors, to some extent, Facebook's in our space, or Apple's in our space, but here's why we feel we can deal with that. That's perfectly honest. That makes you a lot more credible. Keep in mind that your business competition may not be a who, it may be a what. It may be a something as opposed to a someone. Okay, so back in the 1990s, when I was setting up my Bionics Corporation, 3 years later, the internet came along. And all of a sudden, I realized people were not going to be buying 200-page books on interviewing for a legal job anymore. They're going to be looking for online solutions. And I'm not the kind of person who's going to be, I'm not tech sophisticated enough to be able to bring this business onto the internet. That's why I sold it to a company that was into digital publishing and was much more better able to adapt what I was doing to a digital marketplace. I was not the right person to do that. Then make it very clear why your customers will choose your products or services over the competition. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was doing a business plan competition for restaurants and other food, service type of companies. And, this person came up and basically was pitching a donut shop that was basically the same as every other donut shop that I heard of it. I raised the question. I said, "Hey, look, forgive me. We all love donuts, but look, you've got Dunkin' Donuts out there. You've got, you got all these companies out there that are nationwide donut brands. Why are you going to be different?" And she said, "Well, because we've just leased space at the train station in, thus and such a town, which has heavy commuter traffic to and from New York City every day." Now, when they said that, the whole room changed. All of a sudden, I said, "Okay, now I get it. Your competitive advantage is not the donuts; it's your location. If you're at the train station in the morning, and when do people eat donuts? In the morning, when they're going into the train, they take the train into the city. Now I get it. Now I see why this is going to be successful. You may only have one store, but it's going to do damn well." Okay. What is it that makes you and your team credible? Okay. Resist the urge to mention your team members by name. Okay. I mean, I see this, and especially in college business plan competitions, the person will say up and say, "Now here's our management team. Now Janie, she does this, and Joe's going to do that." No one cares. And you're wasting valuable time on information that judges don't care about. What we want to hear are their credentials and their superior understanding of your technology and your customers. That's what I want to hear. Does your team know the people, the customers who are going to buy this? Do they know the technology? Okay, so here's some examples of the way you should phrase this. Our team has over 100 years experience in product development. Okay, that's a great pitch. Just make sure that there's more than one team member. The SCORE people are probably taking notes here. This presentation has more smiley faces than any other presentation I think I've ever done for SCORE. Here's another example. We have 3 board members who are former Google engineers. Now, if you're doing a tech business, that's incredible credibility. If you're starting up a smoothie business, how much do Google engineers know more about smoothies than any of the rest of us do? I don't know. Again, make sure that it's relevant to the pitch, and make sure that they fairly represent your customer base. One of the most dramatic moments that we ever had on Money Hunt was, this was the 90s now. When the internet first came along, everybody was trying to develop portals. The idea was that that people were going to create these grandiose websites that would own a certain piece of information, that you could only get that piece of information from this particular website. We called it a portal. We later discovered, by the way, that wasn't at all what worked on the internet. What worked on the internet was the search engine. That was Google's great insight that made them a gazillion-dollar company. But back in the early 90s, everybody was saying, "Well, let's build a portal. Let's create a portal for these people, for doctors, for lawyers, and we will own that space. We will own that marketplace because we're the only website on the web that deals with it." That was the thinking back then. And this entrepreneurial team had come up with the idea of setting up an internet portal for homemakers, for stay-at-home moms, where they could, talk to each other, share recipes, share their stories about how wicked their husbands are and all this kind of stuff. And back in the early 90s, there was still a very sizable market, especially in the heartland and in the South, of people who were staying at home, raising kids and doing stuff like that and going crazy. Okay, so on the surface, it sounded like a great idea, but I saw something in their business plan I didn't like. So when we got to the management section, I asked this person, now, sir, your business plan here, you're going to set up an internet portal for homemakers and housewives. Okay, can I assume that most of these people are going to be women? And he looked at me like I had just grown horns. He says, "Well, yes, of course. I mean, almost all of them are going to be female." And I said, "Well, that's interesting because I'm looking at your business plan. You don't have a single woman on your management team, on your board of directors. Is that going to be a problem for you?" and the whole room just went cold. I mean, I shot down this guy's business plan in 10 seconds. Okay. It was one of the greatest moments of Money Hunt on the Money Hunt show. Make sure that you have people on your management team that reflect who the customers are. Again, it's all about credibility here. Are you the people that are going to make this? You have a great idea, but you don't have the people that are going to make this happen. You got to have the people. It's not enough to have a great idea. You have to have the people who have the experience and the knowledge and the savvy to make that thing happen. Then last but not least, number 6, anything that makes you memorable. Okay, now let's go back to my Bienix Corporation elevator pitch. Okay, do you remember that book that I wrote that was so good that people were stealing it from law libraries? I'll bet you do, and I'll also bet you don't remember anything else about my pitch. Okay, we've been talking now for a little over a half an hour. You probably have forgotten if I asked you to repeat my elevator pitch, you probably couldn't do it and you wouldn't even come close. But the one thing you would remember is that story about that book that I wrote that was so good, people were stealing it from law libraries. Here's one of the dirty little secrets. 5 minutes after you leave the room, I have forgotten most of what you said in your business plan pitch as a judge. And even though I'm frantically taking notes while you're talking, okay, I am not going to remember that, especially if it's a long competition. If we've got 10, 15 teams that are competing and then the judges retire to the room, we have to struggle to remember now, who was this one? Who was this one? Now, who had the fertilizer business? Who had the donut shop? We have trouble remembering. So if you can tell us a good story, that is halfway to victory in the business plan competition. Well, wait a minute, that kid that took the story about how his brother was in Vietnam and lost a leg, and this is why he got the idea for doing this. Wow, that was compelling. That sticks in people's heads. And half the battle of winning a business plan competition is simply to have the judges remember who the heck you are. So always have a good founder story ready to go, even if it stretches the truth a little bit. Have a good founder story that will stick in people's heads. We got together. I mean, a couple of years ago, I judged a business plan competition, and the very first presenter was a 13-year-old girl whose pet cat had been run over by a car. And she invented this device that cats could wear around their neck so that they could signal their presence to oncoming vehicles and stuff like that. I mean, we were almost in tears by the time this business plan came. I mean, who's gonna give a 13-year-old kid who just lost her pet cat a problem? Okay, who's heartless enough? Well, I might do it, but who's going to be heartless enough to do that? I mean, it was a story that you just couldn't get out of your head. So, have a good founder story. Use humor if you can, pathos if you can. Just make sure that the story is relevant to your business plan. Don't tell me a great story that has nothing to do with your business plan, because that's not going to help you, and that's actually a negative. It means that you're not focused on what you're talking about. You're not focused on your business. That's a real negative signal that you're sending. So those are the 6 things that have to be in your elevator pitch and your business plan pitch. Now, if you have time, now in 30 seconds, obviously you're not going to have time for any of this, but if you have a 5 to 10 minute slot for your presentation, try to see if you can squeeze in some of these things as well. A 1-sentence summary of your cash flow projections. Now, when you do a business plan, you agonize a lot over the cash flow projections section, what your costs are going to be and your revenue forecast. It's very difficult to present that information concisely in a 5 to 10 minute business plan competition. It's really meant for the meeting with the investors afterwards, where you can pour over it with them together, for several hours and figure out where all the holes are in it. You can't really do this in a business plan competition, but there are 4 things that investors especially want to hear. They want to know, how long is it going to take you to break even? What's your gross margin going to be? What are your sales forecasts for the next X, YZ months? And what is your retail price? How much are you offering this to your customers for? Or if it's a B2B product, what's your wholesale price? The way to do that in a single sentence is what I've just given you right here. We expect to break even in 6 months with a 25% gross margin, assuming $250,000 in sale and a retail price of $100 per unit. Put that in your PowerPoint slide. That gives the judge all the information that they need in a single sentence. You don't have to show, whenever someone's doing a business plan with a PowerPoint and they put up the whole cash flow projection in tiny, tiny type that nobody can read, that's an instant turnoff. There's no way that we can read that. There's no way that we can digest that in the few seconds that that slide is going to be up on your screen. So this sentence, putting that in your pitch will get all the important information across that you need from your cash flow projections. A mention of any key laws and regulations that impact your business. Now, I'm a lawyer. Remember, by trade, if I'm on your panel and I know that there's a regulatory, issue with what it is you're looking to do, I'm going to nail you on it. So make sure you say something like, we expect it will take 6 to 9 months to get FDA approval of our medical device. A number of years ago, I did a business plan competition, a college undergraduate level business plan competition, where the team had a very interesting idea, but I asked them, I said, well, look, this is great, but, people can get similar products anywhere. How are you going to get, oh, well, we have a simple solution. When our customers buy from us online, we're going to make them sign an agreement saying that they will not buy stuff from any of our competitors. Okay, they wanted their consumers, to sign a non-compete agreement as a condition to buying their stuff online. And I said, dude, that's illegal. You can't do that. That's a restraint on trade. The trade regulators are going to come after you, man. You're going to be wearing orange jumpsuits. It's shot, and I really felt sorry for these kids because they had worked the whole semester on this stupid project, and shame on their faculty advisor for not pointing out to them that was an illegal contract. You can't force consumers to say they will not buy from other companies. That would destroy all of capitalism if you did something like that. Okay, how you will advertise or promote your product or service. Okay, I want to know a little bit about how you're going to get the word across. Now, these days, the first thing I hear is, well, we're going to use social media. All right, you're using social media, but social media is passive. You put stuff on there, but people have to look to find you. What are you, if you're going to rely on social media, or if you're going to create an Amazon or a Shopify storefront for retail price, I'm okay with that, but I want to know, how are you going to drive traffic to your storefront? Just having it up there is not going to drive traffic. I need to know, how are you going to get the word out to people? What are you going to do to drive traffic? Are you going to create an affiliate program? What are you going to do? There's ways you can do this to generate online traffic. I want to know what you're doing. If you are a social enterprise, a very brief statement of your positive impact on society. People do care about this. More and more people are concerned about ESG, businesses' impact on the environment, social, and how you're governed. This is important, but it shouldn't drive your business plan. Don't spend more than a few seconds talking about it. Point it out because people care about it being there, but focus your business plan on how you're going to make money. Because if you don't make money, you're not going to be able to have any sort of an impact on society at all. That is a lesson that a lot of entrepreneurs learn too late sometimes. Even nonprofits. Now, I deal a lot with nonprofit organizations. I coach a lot of nonprofit organizations. But here's the thing. Even a nonprofit has to make a profit. If a nonprofit is not making money, it will have no money left over. It'll pay its expenses, but it will have no money left over to achieve its charitable mission. The first goal of any nonprofit or socially driven organization is to make money. And that's what the judges are looking to hear about. By all means, say, we have a solution for climate change. That's great. But show us how you're going to make money doing this. And then, we will do the right thing. Okay, watch your verb tense. What do I mean by this? When it comes to selling investors or judges in a business plan, there's a very big difference between the future tense. This will happen someday, sometime, when all of the stars align, and the present tense. This is happening. We are taking off, and it's just a question of whether it's your money or someone else's that's on board. Okay, there's a very big difference here. Whenever you're selling a business plan, the attitude should be, this is happening. It's going to happen with or without you. If it's not your money, don't worry. I got people lined up out the door that want to invest in this thing. How much should I should I put you down for? Okay. So, if you're an investor, I mean, it's the present. Don't talk about the future tense. Well, if we get the money and if the government approves us and if, don't. The more ifs I hear, the more I'm thinking this is never going to happen. Okay. Show me that it's happening. So here are some examples. We are already in business and gross over 50,000 our first month. That is extremely compelling. Okay. If I hear that, you're a real business. You're not just an idea or a student team with an idea. You are a real business. You're making money. It's succeeding. That gets my attention like nothing else. In fact, if ever you're at a business plan competition where there are some people who are already in business and some that are looking to be in business, it's always the first group that comes away with the prizes, almost always. We are in discussions with a major distributor and close to a deal. If you're doing anything in the music or entertainment field, my first question is going to be distribution. How the heck are you going to get these things into people's hands? With the streaming on Spotify or one of those other places. Okay, the best possible way you could say it is 2 other angel investors have committed to invest $500,000. At that point, the business plan is over. At that point, I'm reaching for my wallet. Here's a secret. Venture capitalists do not like to be the first. They love being the second or third, but the ones that are really courageous to be the first are few and far between. The minute that they hear that it's sort of an interesting thing. It's kind of like dating in high school. Once somebody sees that a particular person is attractive to other people, that makes them twice as attractive to themselves. The same rule of human nature applies in a business plan competition. If other people have already invested in you, say that. It'll be very compelling to a judge. Well, geez, I mean, if he's got, Anderson Horowitz interested in him, well, geez, they've already done their diligence. I don't have anything more to do. How much do you need at that point? And then for nonprofits, if you have a nonprofit concept, we have letters from over 100 donors offering to contribute $1 million once we get our tax exempt status. By the way, very good thing for nonprofits to do. Get people to commit in writing. Well, if you get it set up and I'll contribute $50, I'll contribute $100. Get a bunch of those letters together. That's a signal that you're not just starting from scratch, that there's money already on the table. And last but not least, when you give your presentation, okay, don't do it in a monotone. I am very big on presentation quality. I want to hear a clear speaking voice. Sadly, one of the biggest difficulties we had with my Money Hunt show back in the 1990s, some of the most brilliant entrepreneurs out there were people who couldn't present very well. They mumbled. They had, very difficult accents that you had to cut with a knife. They weren't good presenters. Focus on your presentation skills. Speak clearly. I want to see passion. I want to see commitment here. I don't want to hear, well, besides this thing, we're going to do this. I want to hear that you are focused, that you are driven. And what I want to see is what we call AOTL. Now, take a look at that diagram. Some of you if you've never seen this before, you're scratching your head, but it's really very simple. Look at what it is. AOTL stands for ass on the line. I want to see that you're totally committed to this. I want to know that your team has leveraged themselves to the hilt. They've run up all their credit cards to the max. They've mortgaged their houses as much as they could. They've borrowed money from friends and families. I want to know that you have exhausted all other opportunities before you have approached me for financing. Because if you are not willing to go out of pocket yourself to make your dream happen, why should I go out of my pocket to make your dream happen? That is very cynical, but it's how a lot of investors in the real world look at this. I get pitches all the time, mostly from older entrepreneurs who have a great idea, but when I ask them, well, how much money have you put into the thing? Oh, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to wait for our Series A round. That's an instant killer right off the bat. If you're not willing to put your life online to make this wonderful thing happen that you believe in, why should I believe in you? Having your ass on the line is very, very important. And it's something I want to hear in every business competition. Okay. After the pitch, these are just some questions. We don't have time to cover them all, but these are some, you should be prepared for the judges to ask questions. These are the most common questions that you are likely to be asked. Take a screenshot of this slide and make sure you have answers to each one of them when you do your business plan competition. And we are basically done. So key points, forget how your product works. What does it do? That's what the judges and that's what your investors want to hear. Explain why real people in the real world will buy your products and services, not why they should or ought to. I want to know that real people in the real world, as imperfect as they are, will buy your product or service. Be candid about who your competitors are. Don't tell me you don't have competition. I want to know who they are, and I want to know that you have a compelling advantage over your competition. The donut shop at the train station. Think of that. Convince your audience that they are backing the right horses to make this business happen. Okay, you've got the people on your team. They've got the experience. They know the technology. They know the market. You know, these are seasoned business people. This is going to happen. Tell stories, use illustrations, and if you remember nothing else, be memorable. Remember the book that I wrote that was being stolen from law libraries. Do anything you can to be memorable so that the judges or the investors don't forget who you are. Remember, this is a sales pitch. This is not an academic discussion. Don't forget to sell. Don't forget to ask. You know, we're looking to raise, $20 million and we're looking to give up 20% of our company for that. Don't be afraid to sell. This is what this is all about. Demonstrate enthusiasm, commitment, and ass on the line, and practice until you can do it all in 30 seconds or less, which may take years of your life. So this is the end of my 1-hour program on how to do a 30-second presentation. Here are some suggestions for further reading. These are just a bunch of books you can find on Amazon. I'm a particular fan of the first one, Get Backed, because it actually tells you page by page how to put together a PowerPoint pitch. And I really like it. It's very real world. It was put together by some Harvard Business School students a couple of years ago. And it's very graphic as to what you have to do to put together a perfect pitch deck. I also have some YouTube videos on financing the startup enterprise, raising capital and managing your finances, and my award-winning video, which already has over 300,000 views and from people in 49 countries around the globe, how to sell anything to anybody. These are all on YouTube. You go to youtube.com, search for Cliff Ennico. You'll see all the stuff that I got up there, but search for these specific things and you'll find the videos that are most relevant to today's topic. And that is it. This is me. This is how you can get in touch with me. We've got a few minutes left here, Tim. So let's take a few questions if we can. I see we got a couple.
Yep, we have. The first question was, can we get copies of the slide? We never provide copies of the slide, but I think if you write Cliff, he might help you out.
Yeah, I don't like to give out my slides in general because inevitably there's one lawyer in the audience who's looking to do a pitch on elevator pitches, and I've just done his work for him. So I hope you don't mind. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to answer questions, or if you want to send me an email, I'll answer them. This program will be available in archive, so you will be able to watch it, more at your leisure, perhaps, where you can stop the screen and do stuff like that. If I went a little bit too quickly today, but I'd rather not give out my slides to the doing people. I want to take this question from Joyce here. She says, after doing a respectable impromptu pitch one-on-one in an elevator, how do you offer your contact info or card to the listener? Are business cards antiquated? This is actually a very, very good question. Business cards are not antiquated at all. You should have them, by the way, because you will meet people, even despite the fact that due to COVID, we're all doing things via Zoom meeting these days. People still are going to get together in the real world. I never offer my card to anyone. I do my thing and I ask, and if someone asks me for my business card, I will give it to them if I think that they're a good fit for what I can do. In the days before pandemic, I used to do a lot of networking groups. These organizations that meet at 7 o'clock in the morning, and everybody hands out business cards. And the first thing they do when they get home is they throw them away. My preferred approach is I never give out my business card unless someone asks for it and I know enough about the person that it's someone I think I can help in some way. So believe it or not, what I used to do, in the days before pandemic is, I would bring a bunch of business cards, but when someone asked me for my card, I would say, well, wait a minute, wait for me to do my presentation first, because after listening to me, you may not be as convinced today that I can help you as you are right now. Listen to what I have to say. And if you still feel that I can help you with something, we'll chat a little bit after my presentation. I play a little hard to get that way. I don't just give out business cards, to people, willy-nilly. I want to listen to the person first, and I will be the first to say, you know what, I don't really think I can help you. Rather than give you my business card, give me one of yours and I'll introduce you to somebody I know, a lawyer friend of mine who can really help you. Okay, so that's my answer to Joyce's. That's my answer to Joyce's question. I see that somebody here missed the slide with the videos. So what I'm going to do here is go back a little bit. Here's the slide again with all the videos and all that stuff. If you want, I'll leave it up for a couple of seconds so you can take a screenshot of that. Tim, do we have anything else?
Nope, I think that's it. So if you want me to just sign us out for our next SCORE webinar, please go to the calendar on our website at fairfieldcounty.score.org. Again, SCORE offers free individual mentoring, so please use the link on the screen or visit our website and click Request a Mentor. Also, please fill out the evaluations that have been sent at the end of the webinar. On behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's SCORE live webinar. In closing, a big thank you to Cliff for presenting today. Have a nice rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.